So my dog's not interested in treats or food when out on a walk. This is one of the most common questions and objections that we get as dog trainers as to why people can't fix the problems they're having, whether it's recall, whether it's reactivity, whether it's lead walking, whether it's guests, whether it's being around certain things out on a walk. Some people have dogs whose food drive just isn't high enough. Luckily for us, that's something that we can fix. And don't panic, we're not going to be starving any dogs here. That isn't how we do things, because then they wouldn't have enough energy to learn and you'd be wasting your time anyway. But we can build food drive in just about any dog. And without food drive, or without the reward that you offer them being something that they want to attain, you're not training anything. At the end of the day, if you keep putting your dog in the situation where they do the wrong thing and try and offer them food for it, for something different, and they don't do the something different, then they're not training, they're just practicing getting it all wrong. So how do we build food drive? I'm going to run through top to bottom, sort of whiz through on this. There is a full module on this in the behavior bootcamp, which gives you sort of step-by-step instructions on how to build this. But a few things that you guys can really work on and build that food drive are going to be as follows. So step one, we need to know how much does our dog need to eat. So many people come to us and come for training and they say, right, I want, my dog's not interested in food, and we need to build that food drive, and they don't know how much food the dog's supposed to have in a day, and they just give them a bowl or two bowls or three scoops or whatever it might be, or different every day, and they don't know when the dog is getting enough and when they're not, or too much. So how do we figure that out? There's a couple of really easy ways to do this. The first thing we need, however, is your dog's weight. Now, if your dog is overweight, we need to know their ideal weight, not the weight they currently are, because that's really important. A lot of people will feed, oh, my dog's 23 kilogram, and the bag says I need to give them 320 grams a day, but 23 kilograms is 3 kilograms too heavy, so we should be probably feeding for more like a 20 kilogram dog, if that's their ideal weight. So find out their ideal weight. If they're already at their ideal weight, if they look great, cool. We don't need to change the amounts that much. We just need to work to the maintaining that weight, not getting down to their ideal weight. Hopefully that makes sense so far. Once we know their ideal calorie intake, we need to know if the food we're giving them is hurting or helping. So allaboutdogfood.co.uk is a really good way of figuring out what's in your dog's food. There is a pie chart on most foods on there, and if there should be a red bit and a beige bit, and there's sometimes like a green and an orange and a whatever bit on there. There's some other little slices, but basically the red bit is the meat protein content. The beige bit is the carbs content. If the beige bit is the majority of the food, the carbs and the majority of the food, we've got a problem, because dogs don't process carbs especially well. They can do, but not really well. They process meat really well. They can process veggies quite well. Carbs, not so much. And if more than half of the intake of their diet is carbs, they're going to struggle to take the 50% of that food or 20% of that food that's meat and get all of the nutrition from it, because they still have to take in all the food to get some of the nutrition, and the rest of it has got to go somewhere, either into fat, into poops, or into explosions of energy in the form of sugar rushes, because carbohydrates turn into sugar, essentially. Sugar turns into crazy, and sugar turns into unpredictable energy releases, which, if we've got reactivity, for example, well, that's not helping us at all. If we've got anxious, nervous, unsettling dogs, that can be really harmful too. But also, if they have to eat this much food and they only actually need this much, they're going to be full. So it's of no surprise at all that they aren't interested in working for food outside. Second thing then we need to look at is, well, can we get them onto a food that is of a higher meat content? So either do a bit of research, ask ChatGPT, whatever, or there's a few that I recommend. Wolfworthy, for example, I give my dogs that. It's a dry food, but it's high in meat content. There's not really much crap in there. The only carb in there is sweet potato, which is much, much, much better than wheat, maize, grains, barley, and so on. We then figure out, well, how much are they supposed to have a day? And they're supposed to have, let's say, for argument's sake, and to make round numbers, 300 grams. So what you're going to do, you're going to start hand feeding every gram of that food, and they're not going to get any extras outside of that until we're happy with the food drive being where it needs to be. No treats, no nothing. If we do have to give them, let's say, a chew or something like that, then we take it out of their calorie allowance. So if they get 100 grams a day and you give them a pig's ear and it weighs about 100 grams, well, that was a meal. and you're going to have to, make sure you're keeping some tabs on that. We hand feed all of it, every mouthful. If we want big change from our dog, we're going to have to make some big changes ourselves. And nobody said this was going to be super easy, but it's going to be straightforward. We offer our dog the food. Offer is the key word here. We offer them 100 grams of food for meal one. We split that into 3, offer them meal 1 by hand. If they're not interested, cool. If they'd rather go chill on the couch, go play in the garden, go do something else than eat, listen to them. They are giving you information. I'm not as bothered by that food as I am by going playing in the garden. Okay, cool. The food isn't valuable enough right now, and that's okay. What we're not going to do is panic and put gravy on it, or mix some treats into it, or put some cheese in there, or anything else to make it more appealing, because then of course our dog will eat it, but now that's the new standard. And are they going to work for food outside if they can get cheese in the house? Probably not. We take the 100 grams, or 50, let's say they left half of it. We take whatever they left, whether that's all or just some of that meal, and we put it back in the bag, and they are unable to access that food again. That's gone now. They have 200 grams left today. This can go on for a day or 2, or maybe even 3 with some dogs. Don't panic. Don't quit too early. Dogs are very efficient in terms of metabolizing food. They can go 2-3 days before their body starts to say, yeah, let's get some food in. They're very efficient that way. Scavenging animals, opportunistic predators very much are like that. Once we've got to the point where they are hungry enough, they've digested some of the food that they missed out, but when they missed out on food, they've digested some of the food that was already inside them, then we start to see some interest in that food, and we'll just get them doing some basic stuff for it. Go to bed, come to me, do a sit, throw it, go get a piece, whatever. Just making it fun and interactive when we're trying to get our dog to eat, not just putting the bowl down and leaving them to it. We're also going to make sure there isn't a bowl left down for them to go top up on whenever they want. Then we're going to try and get to the point where we can get 2, maybe even 3 days in a row where they eat every piece of food. Once we get to that, and only when we get to that, do we then move it into a more difficult environment, let's say the garden. And we're going to try and step this up gradually and not just go, right, they ate all of the food in the house, let's go find a busy dog field, because you're going to fail. But once we've completed, let's call it level 1, your house, we don't feed our dog there anymore, because we need them to be interested in food outside. And this is a really common regression people make. Once we've completed level 1, we don't feed at level 1 anymore. We go and feed them in the garden. Level 2. It's not a big jump, but it's a little bit more difficult. There's a bit more smells and sounds knocking around from the outside world. Some people have really interesting gardens full of smells and wildlife. Some people just have a yard. Doesn't really matter. It's just step 2. It's the next easiest place we can go. And you repeat the process until we get a couple of days in a row where your dog eats all the food. If they'd rather run off around the garden than come and eat the food from you, cool. Listen to the dog. Let them make that decision. Let them tell you that the value of the food is not high enough right now. Don't up the quality and the tastiness of the food. Let their body digest so that they have a deficit going on and they're like, oh yeah, I need to fill this. Once we've done that, we need to find somewhere that's a bit more difficult than the garden, but not completely crazy. Outside the house, maybe on the front of your street, maybe your front garden, maybe a side street, somewhere where it's fairly quiet, there's not a lot going on, but we're definitely in a more distracted environment. Rinse and repeat the last step, where we don't move on until they're eating it all, and we let them decide if they're not going to eat that food. So put the food in a bag or a pocket or a pouch, take it out. If they don't eat it, cool, let them do the thing. Let them be distracted and ignore you. Cool, sweet, it's fine. Because I'm not going to try and bribe you with something you don't want. I'm not going to try and reward you with something you don't want. I'm just going to take your word for it and let the value build because you've not eaten and you've not digested. No dog has ever starved itself in the history of dogs. And the only consideration that you really need to make here is that you're never trying to do this in a situation where your dog is overwhelmed with nervousness and fear, because then they will potentially lose a lot of weight and make themselves poorly because they are too stressed to eat. So you wouldn't go and do this in the vet or in a groomer when your dog is absolutely shaking and shivering and you're going to be like, oh, do you want some food? Then no, they're not going to eat. And if that's the only opportunity they have to eat, they're going to miss out. And that's not fair. We don't ever starve our dog. We offer them opportunities to eat that are realistic. Yeah. But the big mistake people tend to make is once the dog eats all the food in the house and they start moving it outside, they'll still be feeding the dog in the house as well. And we need to create a value gap. The final step then is starting to introduce triggers at a low distraction level. So whether that's other dogs, people, whatever it is that your dog struggles to work around, and we're going to offer them food around those things. And again, we're going to let them decide only if they're not overwhelmed with stress and fear. Again, really important. Please don't be putting your dog in situations where they couldn't eat and not allowing them to eat anywhere else. That would be unfair. They have to be choosing not to eat. Common mistakes people make when doing this is they're still giving the dog treats and not taking them out the calorie allowance. They are not taking into account the fact that their dog maybe does need to lose some weight. That's, again, one of the really common ones. Another really common mistake we see with this is when we have more than one person in the household, or a really common one is if we have like a young couple and grandma looks after the dog and grandma spoils the dog rotten, we've got to kind of make sure the dog isn't getting fed somewhere, because then we lose all of that value in the food. So yeah, we've got to be really, really strict on this, and sometimes it's a case of speaking to family members as well. Once you then have the dog working for their normal food, their daily food in a semi-distracting environment, if you then need to use things like treats and cheese and cocktail sausages and whatever your dog will really, really go off and that will really, really show you some enthusiasm for, great, you can have a gear to go up. Common example, a really good example from us, Albus, my border collie. He is sometimes a stooge dog for us on sessions with reactive dogs or dogs that are working on the recall, and he's like the distraction, he's the draw. I need him to perform at his best in those sessions. So when we're on a normal walk, he just gets his kibble. It goes in a bag, we take his food out, and he gets that while he's on his walk for doing stuff. And that's just how he gets most of his food. He'll hunt for some of it, he'll get some of it for his basic training, but he gets his normal food for the majority of things. Once we've got a German Shepherd barking at him, I may have some liver or some cheese or some sausages or whatever was in the fridge that was supposed to go on my sandwiches, that's going in the bag, and he's going to give me an extra gear. He's going to go up a level because, whoa, well, I'm happy to work for normal kibble, so this stuff, I'm happy to give you even more. And he's pretty good at the best of times for his normal kibble. He's good for no reward. So it's good to know that when the distraction levels go up, so does my enticement level of the food. So hopefully that makes sense. Make sure you're keeping a checklist of how much and how many days, just so you can kind of see if there's any trend of improvement. If you've not got the information, then it sometimes can be hard to know if it's working or not. We see a lot of people say, oh, this didn't really work, and then they've not written anything down. So basically just day one, Monday, let's say Monday, meal one, meal two, meal three, tick or cross until we get 6 ticks in a row. So that would be 2 days, and then we can move on to the next distraction level. Try not to go up a big distraction jump all at once. Don't want to go from we do it in the front yard to we do it on a busy field, but also don't stick in that same don't stay in the house once they've completed the house. Get out and move on, and make sure the food isn't available at home anymore. They got to go get it in the garden, and then they go get it on the street, and then they go get it on the field, and so on and so forth. Hopefully that makes sense. It's a pretty bomb-proof way of ensuring that dogs' food drive goes up and food becomes more valuable, and then we can start to use it as a reinforcer, as a distractor at times, as a way of giving our dog choices to make that they'll actually care about. Couple of things on this. Some dogs start with a higher food drive than others, and some dogs have a potential for higher food drive than others. There are limitations to this. I'm not going to say every dog's going to be completely savagely ravenous for food. They're just not. But we can improve the food drive of just about any dog we work with. I can only think of 2 or 3 that I've worked with over the last few years that they were just absolutely stick thin dogs, and that was just where they've come from Romania, Macedonia, Turkey, and they basically have just learnt to survive on almost nothing, and their parents and grandparents have been the same, and now they have such a low requirement for caloric intake that drive for it is very difficult, because they only need 30 grams a meal twice a week, and they just seem to be able to survive on that. Those dogs are really difficult. I'm going to take it as an assumption that you probably don't have one of those dogs, because it is so rare. One in 500, one in 1,000 maybe. So the average dog, we can increase their food drive. If you've got a Labrador, you're probably going to be able to push this higher than if you've got a Shih Tzu. You just are. But we can increase the food drive of all of them and make food something really important. So if you need the full step-by-step guide for this, it's in the dog training behavior bootcamp there, which will give you the full back to front how to do everything step by step to get your dog from where they're at now, whether that's reactive, whether that's dragging you down the street on the lead, whether that's kicking off at guests, whether that's not coming back when you call them, not being able to let them off the lead. All of those common sort of issues that people face, we cover that in the behavior bootcamp. There is the option for in-person sessions alongside it, and there is also just the online resources and the group stuff, which we would love to get you involved on. If you want more information on that, please book a call. The link is in the bio for the video, and we will basically guarantee that if you don't see results and noticeable improvements in the areas that you're struggling with, then we'll keep working with you for free until you do. No risk there that you're going to be like, oh right, well that didn't work and now he's gone and now I don't have any further help. We'll help you for free until you see those noticeable big changes in your dog's behavior for the better. Definitely not for the worse. So if you want more information in that, book a call. The link is in the description of the video, and you'll also get access to the community of other owners that are living with dogs and going on these journeys with their dogs from where they are to where they want to be. There's the dream outcomes happening all the time with our clients, which we're very, very proud of, and we'd love you to be a part of it. You get to access tons of materials, and also you get weekly check-in calls, so you can basically keep in touch with us, we'll keep in touch with you, and you can message us whenever you want and ask us whatever questions that you need to ask that are specific to your dog, because at the end of the day all dogs are different, and the advice that we give is going to be somewhat generic in some of the situations, and we can then help you apply it to your dog, your lifestyle, their breed, and your situation. Like I said, if you want to know more, the call link is in the description. Please book on. We'd love to speak to you, and we'd love to help you and your dog. See you there.